Chronicles of Earth Nine presents Star Trek Online. Welcome, I'm Agamemnon, and we're bringing you again Star Trek Online Federation Night here at Chronicles of Earth Nine. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when we put out new videos. We're logging into our main character, Clytemnestra Hippocrata. If you're familiar with the Greek epics, Clytemnestra was the wife of King Agamemnon, and really when I had begun our career as Star Trek Online, joined the Starfleet.
Odo's found something intriguing in the Masan system.
Clytemnestra, and from that's how we derived our Twitch name, Agamemnon. I always log in. Greatness has arrived. If you're familiar with our Twitch page, or if I visited your Twitch channel, it's my code. I've been doing that since I first started playing EverQuest. It was back in 1997, 1998. That's where I got the Pepe Le Pew name. That was my SOE account that I've had for many years now. And when I first logged in the game and walked in, I said, "Greatness has arrived," and I've been doing that ever since. And to give some background, this fleet that we've been in, the SF-41, we've been around since the beta. We started a fleet only a couple weeks after the game launched. We were actually another fleet called, we weren't the Black Sheep, we were something else. But they had an A-team theme, and then we branched off from that and then became the Black Sheep Squadron, which is named after Marine Corps General Pappy Boyington. He was a World War II fighter pilot, and so we borrowed that. And we started off originally as a role-playing / PvP thing, and I was trying to make a go at it, but the people who really wanted to do PvP, somehow they hated the role-playing. They thought it was evil. And they tried to pull the religion card. It's against my religion nonsense about role-playing. And that's when we laid a hammer down, and they actually quit. But the majority of people didn't want to do that. Well, they were willing to do the PvP, but I think when they started being really silly about some people, the excuses they make up about role-playing is just absurdity in itself. It's one thing if you don't like role-playing, but you shouldn't go out your way to prevent other people from role-playing, because it's quite a constructive way. Now, there's someone running a vacuum cleaner behind me, but that's okay. We're still gonna purge through. The mics to pick up the background, but I think of it as sort of music, but I don't think anyone can copyright vacuum cleaners, so we're going to keep it. But back to my story, they just didn't like role-playing, and instead of saying we don't want to role-play, but they went the immaturity route and decided that we just don't like you role-playing, and we want you to be a PvP-only fleet. But as time went on, I didn't really care for any of that. I was trying to do both because it didn't bother me. I could accommodate either. And I was sort of accommodating both groups. But they really laid in with the whole religion thing, and that's when being obsessive, I kind of laid in and really had it. At the time that I started playing Star Trek Online, I didn't know I had OCD and ADHD. I didn't know I had OCD, ADHD until much later. Actually, a little while later. And then it was in the time that I realized I had it, and I was starting to see a psychiatrist. But prior to that, I would just go off on people. Mainly, if they were rude to me, I would be rude to them. That's sort of how I think it. But in the long run, the same 8 people have been with the fleet the entire time, and the 2 people that bailed, we haven't seen them since. One guy tried to, I don't know, they had me write an apology, which I did. I wrote an apology. I didn't think I needed to apologize, but to be fair, in case I'm wrong, I sent a heartfelt apology, wrote in a long letter, and they didn't even respond back, which means they're a total dickhead. It's one thing. Some people are like, they're about, I am, or how they sell it is, they like respect and stuff like that until they have to actually do the respecting. But if they have an issue, they like walk all over everybody else to get their way, when it's really just immaturity. And it's immaturity in the sense that if you think of everybody has a different perspective on life, you come to some social Star Trek, all online games are nothing more than a social social group. So if you have something that, in your opinion, your value, an opinion is in logic called a value statement. And in logic, you have two types of statements. You have statements of value, statement of facts. Statement of values are what everyday people call opinions. Statement of facts only come down to who, what, when, where, why, and how. And when you develop an interrogative statement or interrogative statement, it's usually in the form of a question. So, because those are factual things. Now, people take facts and they wrap a layer of they give value to it, because when people relate things in the world, they do it in form of 4 dimensions, which is past, present, and future, right? And fourth dimension is fourth dimensional in the case that you have in geometry a point, 2 points make a line, right? Which is 2 dimension. And then 3 dimension gives you volume, and then 4th dimension adds the time to that. Because in the real universe, you have this thing called the space-time concept, and this relates to Star Trek because it's about space and time, right? They quote it a lot in Star Trek, but at the basic core of space and time, in terms of logic, people can have statement of facts and statement of opinion or value statements. So when you take facts and interpret it to other people and communicate it to other people, you are giving your interpretation of fact. And that's what makes it an opinion. Just because you put facts in a statement of value doesn't mean what you're saying or what your claim is factual. The only thing factual is what you're using as facts. But how and why you're using it is not necessarily a fact. And so these idiots, and I call them idiots because they're slow, they know what they were doing. They were trying to pull a fast one, and that's why they're idiots. It's because they were pulling the I don't like what you're doing card, and I'm gonna claim religion. That's against my religion, because they know it might cross some religious threshold. But at the same time, when we roleplay, you don't force people to roleplay, just like you don't force people to PvP. But they were of the, if people didn't PvP, they didn't want to have anything to do with them. But in the long run, it worked out for the role players, because PvP in Star Trek only really lasted a year, and then Cryptic kind of abandoned it. And Cryptic, this game was my 3rd Cryptic game experience. My first Cryptic game experience was through City of Heroes. That's the first time I ever heard of the company. And at that time, I was going through my divorce with Star Wars Galaxies. And that in itself is a whole thing that I will discuss at a different day. But I loved City of Heroes, and it was a co-production between Cryptic and NC Soft. And then NC Soft sort of took it over, and I guess Cryptic did minor modification, but then NC Soft eventually took it completely over. And I think under NC Soft, it was a better game. One of the things I've noticed with Cryptic games, and this is playing, I did the beta, I didn't do the beta for City Heroes, but I did the beta for Champions Online, and I did the beta for Star Trek, and I did the beta for Neverwinter. And I think Neverwinter is really good, but I think Neverwinter is better on the PS4 than on the PC. And then Champions is really good. And I'm surprised they didn't put Champions on the PS4. I think it would be a better game on the PS4. Just the way the game is designed, it's better for that type of community. And then especially being a free-to-player. And then Star Trek Online is in the history of dealing with Cryptic when it comes to PvP. Their games aren't really set up for a PvP system. And at the time that Star Trek Online came out, and City Heroes came out, games were kind of... RPG games were kind of the thing. That's what everybody was trying to compete with World of Warcraft. And PvP. World of Warcraft has PvP in it, but it really isn't a PvP game. Although it's in the game. And when you build a PvP game, or one built on PvE, they're very different beasts. And they're not compatible. And so, like, when I first started playing World of Tanks, I was kind of against PvP, but I decided to play it, and I really loved playing World of Tanks in the very beginning. I still love it, but it really is a game geared for PvP, and from the beginning and get-go, and everyone's on the same page. Yeah, so it's a little fairer. But with a PvE type of system, what ends up happening is you got guys who are like on the very high end and they just walk around ganking people, and so there's no real control for that, right? And they just do it because they hate role players and they just gank people just to have fun, right? And the same thing with these guys. They wanted everyone to be not roleplay, and the majority, 2 people didn't want to do it, and the remaining 8 other people did want to do it, right? The role playing. So if you're in between that, the 8 people, right? Who are you gonna side with, right? And for me to find balance, I wrote out a schedule where we would do PvP on a certain night, but on the weekends we would do the role playing. And then we broke it up into 2 different... You had what was called solo role-playing. You pretty much play by yourself. You go through the story, and you might have one other person. You role-play between the 2 of you, right? And then what the group schedule role-playing was pretty much the fleet, right? And so you would think these 2 guys would be like, hey, you know, they're participating in PvP. I know those 8 people hate it, but they do it because they know we like it. That's not what they did. And the fact that he wanted to apologize, so I wrote a letter and apologized, and then he didn't even bother to write back, which that right there tells he's a dickhead. No matter what they claimed publicly, they truly believe what they said publicly was just nonsense. They were just making a speech because people were either reading what they were writing or listening to them, but their action proved that they were dickheads. And then I wasn't having any of that. Nowadays, I would probably have a better way of dealing with it, but at that time, I was immature in my process to control my inner hatred, and I wasn't having any of that. I was, when they were about balance and let's be fair about it, yeah, I was okay with that. But when they crossed, I think they crossed the line. Well, it was only one of the 2 crossed the line with the lead, and the other guy, he kind of did it. We were role playing, and then he was just fucking around and like killed some dude and just up to kill them in the middle of the story, and he just did it to be a dickhead. And then he has set it up so that we had like a web page and stuff, and he was the guy running that, and then he sort of like bailed on it, and all that work people put into it kind of went away overnight. He just erased it because he said, oh, you guys were being jerks, so I'm gonna be a bigger jerk, prove that I can be the bigger jerk than you 2. Or you all. And then he didn't say that, but that's what he meant. That's how I interpreted it. And so screw them. Here we are 10 years later, And the fleet's happy. We haven't had any arguments. Everyone's loving it. And we're still together, and that's the important thing. But here I am. Here I'm role-playing. I'm solo role-playing. That's because I'm a role-player. And if you look at the top there, my communication thing up there where it says SS4, that's out of character. That panel is set up. When I hit that button and communicate, that goes out of character. So I can send people a message. And we have 2 channels, a roleplay 1 channel, roleplay 2. So if you have scenes going on where you had people on one stage and people on another stage, they could roleplay through that way. And then the public one is if we're like in a private area. Back then, in the original days of Star Trek Online, Zone 1 was the role-playing zone. So if you zoned in on the first instance, and if 1 wasn't available, you went to 2. But you would role-play publicly. And so, like, now when people role-play, some people are more the adult entertainment type of role-player, and then you have the rated R role-players. Some are G-rated role-players. Some are PG-rated. Okay, R people tended to be hover between R and X. And then so you use the private role-playing stuff for that. But in the public, it's usually done in chat. And then I color-coded mine. So when you see the writing up there, everything's color-coded. So I know, like, if someone's just talking to me out of character. And then the hailing frequency, I use that because it's a Star Trek game. That's my open channel. And I don't have any filter on that, so I can see what people are. And then the TTS, that's the public test server, Tribble test server. Back in the day when Star Trek Online came out, when the producers actually talked to people, they got bought out by Perfect World, and then they got ruined by Obamacare, even though they don't admit it. They got Obamacare ruined. I think it was justice because all those guys were all big Obama fans, and they ended up getting fired, mainly because the company couldn't pay them. Because Obamacare wrecked them. But anyway, they'll never admit to that, but it ended up happening. They had to let go of their workforce and consolidate. So it's too expensive. And then but TDS is still around, and I talk in there all the time, and people, it's like, unless I talk in TTS, no one ever talks in TTS. And it's kind of funny, but that's how long I've been around in the game. But the original producers, their first executive, he left in like April of 2010, and then STO took over. They named a Tribble after him. He was a really good executive. He went off to Zynga Games, and then he came back for a little while, and then he left again. One of the Cryptic guys just left Cryptic, and he's now working with DC Universe Online. He's I guess a developer producer over there now. But I guess he's pretty cool. He's more of a mechanical guy. But looping back to my main point with Cryptics is they're not a PvP type of company. All their PvP tends to end up where they, like, I explain it that they over-stipulate the game. They have a tendency in their games to over-stipulate the game. And when NC started doing City Heroes full-time, they removed a lot of those stipulations. And you'll see it in Star Trek Online, whereas they say they're balancing the game, but it really just... This is why I like DC Universe more than Star Trek Online, is that they don't over-stipulate the game, where sometimes when you balance a game, you take all the fun out of the game, right? And it's a real art to it that you can't put... When you put a power in a game, and that's the thing that makes that character great, right? That's the thing that makes everyone want to play that character. You can't just water it down to where it's insignificant, right? So even, like, if you look at a lot of the captain abilities, and you go through the specialization stuff, and you really look at how much time you have, like, a lot of those things that you spend all that money for occur in, like, one moment in the game. And it's like, if you notice in the middle of battle, when you're overwhelmed, right, and a whole lot of conditions occur. And in that 3-4 split seconds, you manage to hit the button, you can get that benefit of that power. It's only maybe gonna occur once in 20,000 times you play that event, but when it happens, you'll be able to hit that. That's how they do their, when they talk about giving you like a great thing to do, and their PvP was like that. And it was just terrible. It wasn't, and that's why people burned out of it after about a year. I think that's my opinion. I think it wasn't a really good PvP. You don't really like, and what happened early in Star Trek Online was, this was before they did the big update in April 2010. Cruisers were like super tanky. They were like you had to spend a lot of points to wreck them, especially in PvP. They were like, they just sit there and laugh at you while you're trying to kill them. And then with their shields, because they in space they were shield tanks, and then, or health tanks. In space at the time, the science officer was the shield healer, and the engineer was the health healer or hull healer. But when you went to the ground, the science guy, if they were a medical person, they would heal health. And then on the ground, the engineer would heal your shields. They reverse. And in space, it's opposite of that. Because a ship has a hull. It's a physical structure. And then the science guy heals the shields. And it's a theoretical thing. And then the engineer would repair the hull. And then the tactical person would heal the crew. They used to have crew. And when you get damaged, like if you damaged a ship to a certain point and killed all the crew, well, the ship couldn't function, right? Because the crew is all dead. They have to regenerate. And that's why they had the emergency medical hologram would come in, and it would stay alive so your crew could regenerate. They'd heal everybody. And that's a true thing. They took that out of the game. I think year 3 or 4 that kind of went away. But in the original game that was launched, cruisers were like, they were the shit, and engineers were the shit. But in April, they neutered them. They neutered them to the point that it didn't matter. You didn't even need to be an engineer at that point anymore. Science officer too, they neutered it to the point that it didn't matter anymore, other than healing. So tactical kind of, I don't want to say came to bread and butter, but they neutered engineers and science officer to the point. It all happened in April of 2010, and it never went back and fixed it or changed it. And so tactical people kind of had the run of the house, and then somewhere along the line they neutered tactical people. So now when you get into combat, especially with gear, it doesn't really matter. It's more of a facade. Right? It doesn't matter what color the energy weapons are or what technology they are. It's really just a facade. They do the same thing. It's just, do you prefer phasers or do you prefer disruptors? Me, because I'm a role player, I try to, if I'm a Federation ship, I'm going to use Federation technology. If I'm a Klingon character, I'm going to use Klingon technology. And then Orions, if you remember in the original, before they had Ferengi, they had Orions. They were, they used everybody's, although they were Federation based, and they used a lot of Federation technology. A lot of their stuff was stolen. Back in the original Star Trek, they had 2 different types of Orions. They had the green Orions, which were the slave trade, but then they had the blue Orions, which they were the peaceful, loving people. They were their law-abiding ones. And then in the Klingons, there were 2 different kind of Klingons. There were the human fusion Klingons, the ones who were genetically altered, and then you had the real Klingons, which when Star Trek the motion picture came out, that's when you had the non-human fusion ones, the pure Klingon. Then that was changed in Discovery, which I don't like Discovery at all. I try to watch it, but it's really hard to watch. But for me, it's very difficult to watch. I get upset watching it. I'm not a crier, so I don't cry, but it makes me want to cry. It's just sad, but they're getting paid to make a Star Trek show, and it's like a bunch of people that have never seen Star Trek at all, had known anything about it. It's like Star Wars, being run by people that have no idea anything about the lore whatsoever or anything about it, and they're just writing stuff at the top of their head because I think this will be a great story, and then we'll write it in, and people will love us. That's how they're kind of doing it now, and it sucks because it's just sad. As a Star Trek fan, I'm just glad this game is around too, so I can get my Star Trek fixation. But I like to come on my ship either from the bridge or my captain. I use the original stage, and then what I do is I always come in and upkeep. This is the first day of the week, and so I'm doing all my upkeeping here. I do it in a set order. And I went through and did my R&D, my Admiralty, my duty officers. And then I always do the duty officers last. And what they allow you to do is, as they work through the week, they get successes, and that gives them experience points. And through their experience as the captain and admiral of the fleet, you can go to your fleet base, and there's a device there that allows you to convert experience to fleet marks. And in fleet, you need fleet marks because that allows you to build and buy things. You convert your experience, it gives you economic value. I think of it as data. They're collecting data as you're going through space, and you're then taking that data and applying it to something, and it allows you to acquire things. People, personnel, parts, and so forth. That's how I envision it from a role player. There I'm sitting around 6 million. I have a lot of fleet credits, and my ship is geared, so I bring in a set amount. If I casually roleplay through the week, a 5-day period of time, the ship should make a certain amount of money and gather a certain amount of resources, and then I try to meet those budgetary goals because my ship, our fleet, there's only like 8 of us, and so everyone took a different fleet asset, and they're sort of everybody has an admiral character basically, and we assigned him to like that base, or I'm assigned to the dilithium mine. But the guy who was overseeing the construction for the start, I think he's kind of given up, or people haven't seen him in a while, so I've started paying attention to that more because it's taking forever to build. But he had a free account, so you can't really. I have a lifetime subscription on the PC. If I play on my PS4, I just have a free account, so it's kind of slow. He can't operate at that kind of pace, but I can. This is how I love to play Star. I like playing from a role player. All the games we're playing, because it has a Chronicles of Earth 9 theme. This is our Star Trek simulator. And when I write my fan fiction stories for Star Trek, I've written a couple of small ones, but just for fun. But I haven't released them to the public, but I'm going to at some point. Because Star Trek used to have what's called a foundry, and you could make your own adventures, and then you would just make the stories so when people went to places, they could write their own stories, and you would make player-based stories. I used to do that, and so I'm taking those ideas and made my own Star Trek stories for Chronicles of Earth 9 at some point, and it's based on this character and her crew and how she comes about being admiral in the story. And she's in this story, she's a Vulcan, and she's been living a long time. She was born in the 23rd century, and she comes along as a cadet back in the Kirk and Spock era, back when the Enterprise B was being built. She was one of the, that was during the Picard days actually. She was one of the, or before Picard. It's in the Next Generation. And it's the one where Kirk was lost on. But she was a science officer on that ship. And the way I wrote her backstory was her parents. Her mother was Vulcan. her mother is Vulcan and her father is Greek Earthman, and he moved to Vulcan, and he's good. He's a mechanical like engineer, and when they were developing the Genesis stuff, he was the one who built all the mechanisms and devices. He took the scientists' theoretical ideas and he was building all the container that you put the proto matter in, the computers to control the reaction. That's what he was doing. He was the mechanical engineer doing all that, and electronic engineer. And so his wife, she's more of the biological side of it. And since they were working at a molecular level, an atomic level with Genesis, that's sort of what her expertise. She was more of the. Here we are. Our first mission has popped. We're gonna go do this, but in the story, he died. He was murdered. Well, the Genesis thing happens, and the Klingons were running around. Remember, they were trying to get the Genesis thing, and they stole, in Star Trek 3, they stole the, they went to the planet, and they end up killing Kirk's son in the story.
I am 7 of 9. In this instance, I speak for the Cooperative. Many Borg were disconnected from the Collective when the Borg Queen was defeated in the Hive. She survived, and downloaded herself into this Unimatrix. Now she is compelling any vessels with disconnected Borg to return for reassimilation. You must upload a virus to the disconnected Borg ships before they reach these towers. If the ships reach these emitter points, the Borg Queen will begin to reassimilate them. The Cooperative will not be able to assist in this endeavor. The longer they stay, the greater the risk of reassimilation.
So here we're gonna go, I'll explain my story in a little bit, or in another video, but just to give you some context here, it's actually you gotta go in here and then slap a few Borg around, and wait for the infantry to show up. So we're a science officer where we're playing in a cruiser, because I like the Excelsior, it's my favorite ship in the game. The greatest ship of all time is the Excelsior. This is the Enterprise B variant. So we're gonna go over there and lay some smackdown. Now I built my science officer, so we're using you see the energy reactor over there on the left. We're set to auxiliary power, which if you're a science officer in this game, auxiliary power is your thing, your bread and butter. So we're moving around, so we're not a static target. It makes it harder for people to kill you. And also, as you're making these circles or figure eights, they have to distribute their energy around your shielding, so they can't focus fire on you. Now our job is to debuff, kill as many shields out there as possible, our own, and lay down masking fire and control for ads and such. Crowd controlling. There you go. I lay down, that's I put the moment of battle right there, spot. As I'm circling around, I'm attacking the ads that come in, so that the damage dealers and tanks, the engineers and tactical officers can deal with the main battle. We're a support ship in the battle. That's our job, is to support them so they can maximize. We're doing our job so they can do their job. Look at that. See that quote? Star Wars quote. That's right. I said it in a Star Trek game. I quote Star Trek a lot in Star Wars The Old Republic. That maneuver. Yeah, awesome. Now we're geared out as a command ship science officer. So the little hexagon we're putting out there, that's where we're putting the center so people can retreat there if they need to be healed really fast.
I'm picking up a massive disturbance in fluidic space. Species 8472 is approaching.
Now, we're using a cruiser, and on the Federation side of Star Trek Online, the science officer flies what are the cruiser-sized ships, cruiser-sized vessel, and the engineers fly, although it's called a cruiser, it's not a cruiser. If you understand naval vessels are built in frigate, destroyer, cruiser-sized vessels. A battleship is essentially a cruiser with heavy guns and heavy armor. An aircraft carrier is a cruiser that has a flat top and uses air power, which is why it has a designation of seaplane. But the science officers on the Federation are geared to where they're the destroyer-sized vessel, and the cruisers are mainly for engineers, and the tactical people use the frigate-sized vessel. Now on the Klingon side, that reverses.
Stop them.
On the Klingon side, the science officer uses the big, bulky, slow-moving cruiser, right? And the engineers use the destroyer-sized vessel. The tactical people still use the frigate-sized vessel, fast-moving vessel. And that's because there's more of them. They're small and there's more of them. But you can play them out of character. You can put a science officer in a cruiser. You can put an engineer in a destroyer. You can put a tactical officer in any of the three sized vessels. Because you have to understand that you're playing out of your role, but you then have to get the equipment, and through skill, you can overcome that in the game, and that's one of the beauties of Star Trek Online. Is you can, if you're a cruiser guy and you're decided to become a tactical officer, you can fulfill that role. But you just have to know how to set the ship up properly and skill your guy out properly. Now this is a pickup group, so it's probably not the best demonstration of team play. But that's just the nature of a pickup group. If we were like people that play together all the time, you'd have the cruiser be the point guy, right? And then your science officer would target through and focus on the cruiser. That way you can keep his shielding maximized. And then he just has to focus on keeping himself alive. Or the tactical guy could be the point guy. They have the best targeting, and then the cruiser just targets through them. And everybody, the science officer would keep the cruiser alive, and then the cruiser would support the frigate. But really, everybody should. Ideally, you want everyone to target to the cruiser because they're the point guy. They're the command ship usually.
I'm detecting something on an intercept
And then
course.
the science and frigate should be supporting the cruiser. It's the way it would work in naval battle. And you would just target through the guy and focus on him, and then that way you always... He should never be low on health, low on shield. us coming in and wrecking people. We're not the star of the movie, we're the crew that comes in and saves the star of the movie's asses. That's our job. On stage.
The Vault have a ship designed to
You
fight.
can't upstage the
Destroy it
principal
before it
actors.
attacks the
You have to principal characters. You have to have your moments at the right time. Mines are really there for crowd control, and they're a mechanical device that you throw out the back of the ship. That way, when they throw all these ads in you, or stuff they like to nickel and dime you with, those mines control for all that, and reduce stuff firing at you. Part defensive. Oh, we found our people. Up on the end here. We're at 43 minutes. Now, as I said before, I don't know if I said it on this video, but Star Trek Online, the combat isn't designed as like, they're not that difficult. Now, if you play on the elite ones, they're a little bit more difficult, but they have to be done in a certain order, right? But the battles in Star Trek Online are really more entertaining. They're more... Star Trek, at its core, is an adventure story. So, the combat that Cryptic has put together is follows along with that. Not meant to be. It's more of an entertainment value than prove you're the greatest tactician of all time. It's not World of Tanks.
The collective will not fall here. I will not allow it.
You will be eliminated.
Nothing shall perish.
Borg running away there.
3 dreadnoughts, but they're attacking one another. This is your chance.
Look at that big ship over there. It's off. It's actually off map, but it's big. That's the... I forget who they are, but the Voyager encountered them in the Delta Quadrant. They were the L reptilian race. If you follow Battlestar Galactica, they were killed off. That's what the Cylons originally were. They were a reptilian race, but in Star Trek they didn't go extinct. And they evolved. We have massive ships. Because they evolved from dinosaurs, basically. Why they're big. I'm playing on a dual core i3 processor. It's a laptop, so I have everything set to medium speed, and I have the video set to 720 high definition. This laptop, that's what it's designed the for, so that's why we're recording it. There's really no lag in it. No, it might look like it. It's a cryptic game, but it actually plays very smooth. Definitely entertaining. Frigate just spotted us. I'm trying to stay above the battle, so we pull all the ads out and away from everybody. Now our phasers are set to low power, but you have to understand our phasers can do a massive amount of damage if you put them, but because we're a support ship, we're geared for auxiliary power, so to offset that I used a little weapon buff there, that when I need it I spike my weapons up that's why I always have 4. Why I use a cruiser is I can call up power when I need it. I always have 4 different type of batteries. Now on the ground, you only have 3 type of devices, and then a variable one. And on space, you have 4. I went with sometimes I'll change out to my actual science vessel. And I'll be in my form because I need more science, but I like the Excelsior and allows you to play more defensively with the Excelsior. The minimal science skill, but I think the engineering stuff is better in combat. Even though we're a science officer and a cruiser, we're still effective. We're wrecking people. Right now I have my shields maximized. Yeah, as a science officer, you're like unstoppable. You can absorb a lot of damage.
Thank you for the assistance. We'll assist the disconnected Borg.
We came here to get the mark. When I look up on my, in the beginning there, when I was looking up our assets, I was low on a couple of different assets, and that's how I determined what missions I needed to do that day. And since we're at our duty place, which is the dilithium mine, but we're on patrol and in role playing, how we're explaining we're doing these dailies. Role playing. Those are the materials we need to build our construction. So we're gonna go out and do some upkeeping here. Remember, we're role players, and Chronicles of Earth 9. Send everything back to off duty. No longer on combat role here. crews stand down for a little, give them a break. That's the captain, you gotta do that. Now we're gonna go and basically convert everything to R&D material. You salvage the loot to give you R&D stuff. They give you salvage points. And the little boxes there were when we did the captain. As you complete every story arc, you gain reputation, you unlock it, and then once you complete the tier 5 reputation, that unlocks the daily. I do the daily. There's one that gives you 340 dilithium and one that every few hours resets. I just do the daily, and that pretty much gives you the dilithium you need, I think. And then you do those once a day. When you log out at night, you turn them on. I do them first thing when I log in, that way I don't forget. But you end up, that gives you your salvage. And then what you can't salvage, you just sell. Normally the loot you get through your queue missions, you can salvage that, and the loot that you get through your reputation, you end up selling that, which gives you your energy credits. How I think of it in the game is, your ship's primary function in life is to produce energy. All your work and effort and labor goes to producing energy, and then you convert that energy to matter. And then matter allows you to do things, build things, construct things, and so forth. So when you melt things down, sell it, you're converting it back to energy again. And that's how I think of it in Star Trek Online. You're just conveniently converting things from energy to matter, matter to energy, and so forth. Because you have limited space on a ship. And the more you can convert it to energy, the better. Now we gotta... we got to mine ore, dilithium ore, and convert that to refined. We got quite a bit of refined dilithium, but we're geared to collect about 8,000 ore a day. If you go talk to the mine guy, he can give you extra 500. And on the first day of the week, I always go to Starfleet Academy to recruit people, and I always do the guy there. He gives you 1,000. And then if you do the dilithium mine guy, and then you do the actual mining event, that gives you more than enough. That tops you off at 8,000. If you're doing all your reputation and stuff, and your duty crew, they can generate a little over 8,000 a day, which it auto refines 8,000 a day. So anywhere north of 8,000, you're doing pretty good. Adjusting graphics. I didn't like the lighting 2.0, so I turned it off. Actually, we're running high graphics. Actually running full, but we're running it at a 720 HD and not a 1080. That's why we can run it in high. Is we reduced the footprint of the video so that you can get better performance out of the game, both rendering and graphics. The shadows are the graphics. The lighting produces that. Looks like the video's all weird, but it's not. It's just a reflection of the shadows from the lights pictures that creates that look. But I like to come. This is my stage. I come sit in my office, and then I do all my reports. This is my quarters here. So I'm gonna go through and do all of my field reports. Not only am I the ship captain, but I'm the fleet admiral. So I have to go through and move people around a lot and assign people every day to jobs. So I'm going through. Those are the ones I already assigned. These are the ones that are completed. Go through and acknowledge the completions. And then I just send the people out at the very beginning of the day, and then and acknowledge them throughout the day and give them a break. I believe in giving my people R&R. So at the beginning of the week, I come in and I deliver my show. I always only do a fifth, so the bar's bracketed in the 5s. I only deliver a 5th. So whatever my sum total is, I only give a 5th. And that way I always have more than I need. And we're never running out of supplies. Drop out, deliver people. That's the people we collected from the previous week. We're delivering personnel to the mine. The mine's in its final phase of construction. So we do the special projects first. And then once we clear that out, then we'll go back and do see the red one up there, and one's an engineering project and one's an operational project. And we're past those construction phases, so they're basically resupplying and reprovisioning. And then that's when the mine goes into operation. We're at the end of the construction phase of the mine, so I'm putting priority on getting that up and running so we can get it into operation. And once it's in operation, then I'm going to transfer my overall command to the station and deal with this. And that's the end. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It's the end. I'm trying to keep these episodes so they're under an hour. Anywhere from 55 minutes to an hour. Anyway, thanks to our Patreon supporters who donate their real world money to help us out. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell, and you'll be informed of when the next videos are released. We release our videos every Friday. New videos. And here's our new page. This is our new Twitch ad that we put into the game. Hope you enjoy it. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.